for the first team to be the first one seed as an underdog in their own home playoff game, and it did not go unnoticed. There was a dog mask or two spotted after the Eagles' win over the Falcons, a reference, no doubt, to those who did doubt. But based on history, people should not doubt the Philadelphia Eagles. They are now 4-0 as a home underdog in the playoffs in the Super Bowl era. They hope to become the second team in that span to win 2 games as a home underdog in the same postseason they would join Arizona in 2008. Sal Paolantonio joins us now. And Sal, there's no doubt this was an emotional win for this Eagles team. So what did they say about putting that in check and looking ahead?
Yeah, emotional win, and the labels don't stop, Wendy, from underdog to lucky dog. I mean, really, come on, man. This team is tired of hearing the labels. They're tired of being called the underdogs. They just think that they belong, and as Torrey Smith, who won a Super Bowl in Baltimore, knows, now this game, the championship game, the NFC championship game against the Minnesota Vikings, comes down to execution. Listen to Torrey Smith.
I mean, I know it's cool to get caught up in the underdog thing, but what does that really matter? Seriously, like, someone thinks you're not good enough, okay? Like, before the season, who picked us to win the Super Bowl but us? Like, it doesn't matter. So, you know, our goal stays the same. We worked hard, and we stuck with our process. And obviously, we lost a lot of a Pro Bowl roster on our own, you know, throughout the season, but got to continue to sit together, continue to fight. So it's about the opportunity now, and that's just going out there and executing, and we'll be fine.
You know, Sunday morning after the emotional win on Saturday night, I had a text exchange with head coach Doug Peterson. We were talking a little bit about the game, and his last text to me, Wendy, was, we have a very resilient group here. But he knows that resiliency is going to be tested. They got to put aside the emotions of the ball game now and execute the game plan, because the Vikings are one tough customer.
Sal, they certainly are. Though resiliency is a fair word, I think, given what they've had to deal with Carson Wentz and playing with Nick Foles and all of that. However, listen, that Vikings defense handled Drew Brees for the better part of 3 quarters. You know, they are the real deal. So panic or patience when it comes to Nick Foles facing that Minnesota defense. Yeah, I thought that might be coming. Yep.
I think, you know, and look, if you're, not that Foles should panic or the Eagles should panic. I mean, if you're an Eagles fan, you should be worried about the challenge of this Minnesota defense. And I think the Eagles coaching staff probably is too, which is probably focusing their preparation. I just, you know, their game plan against the Falcons was so impressive. The way they ran their offense, did everything they could to take advantage of what the Falcons had to give them on defense, and they won a low-scoring game. I just don't know that they can assume it's going to work as well against this Minnesota defense, and that's why I think I'd be worried if I were the Eagles.
Is there a secret potion here, Bill? I mean, what's your best shot if you're the Eagles offense?
The thing that I like about their quarterback, Nick Foles, I got to know him a little bit when he was there the first time around, is that he's very even keel. Nothing bothers him. He's right straight to the task. He's not very emotional. He gets the job done. And that's great in this circumstance, because this is the highest pressure other than the Super Bowl. The tough thing for him is that he hasn't had a lot of chemistry with the receivers, whereas, you know, Carson takes most of the reps. He's a young guy, et cetera. So that has to come, and that'll come through continued practice and play. But the key here is that they have a great running game. They got 3 guys who can run the football. And a young quarterback or a backup quarterback's best friend is a great tight end, and they have it in Selleck, and a great running game. They have that. So if they can run the ball and they can protect him, I think he can get the job done, because on the other side of the ball, they have a great defense. This is 2 great defenses going up against one another, so it's likely to be a low-scoring game.
We'll talk about that in just a minute, but first, your thoughts on Nick Foles.
Yeah, I'm patient because of the fact that I think that everything else that's going to go into this game as far as what will affect Nick's performance, I'm very much so optimistic about. That being this, Doug Peterson has tremendous awareness as to what he needs to give Nick in order to succeed. And I think he has tremendous awareness about game flow, about who to attack, who not to attack, what Nick does best. Look, I think if you're just looking at it from Nick Foles' perspective, I'm not a big believer as far as him being able to do the types of things, make the kind of big plays that can really change games. I just don't believe he's that kind of quarterback. But I believe that this team overall has strength along the offensive line, strength at running back, and the role players, especially at wide receiver, whoever Xavier Rhodes is not covering, I think that Doug will be smart enough and he will be dialed in enough to exploit some of those people the same way the Saints did in the second half of the divisional round. So I'm a big believer in Doug Peterson, always have been, and I believe he will manage Nick enough to where he is not a liability for this football team. He will not lose the game for them.
He just, you hate to say stay in your lane because that sounds disrespectful, but you don't want him to try and do too much.
Absolutely, and that's okay. Yeah.
But so you're a believer there, and it sounds like, Bill, you're an equal believer in this Philly defense. Because Case Keenum, I mean, he can present some challenges at this point.
This is a defense that's a level of magnitude better than the defense they faced with the Saints. This is a defense that has 3 outside rushers, that has the best inside player left in the playoffs and maybe the best in the league other than Aaron Donald and Cox. So this is a group, linebackers that are very underrated, and since Mills has come back in the secondary, they've improved their play there. So, and Roby is back. So this is a group that is an outstanding defense, and they're going to give the Vikings all they can handle. And the Vikings running back situation is not as good as that of the Eagles. It's been great. Pat Shermer's gotten a lot out of it, but there are no game breakers back there. Ajayi is pretty close to a game breaker.
Which I would piggyback by saying, just listening to Bill describe that, and I agree, there may be more pressure on Case Keenum in this game than there is on Nick Foles.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because of the fact that, look, the offensive line here for the Minnesota Vikings, is that a deficiency versus the Eagles front?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no question about that. So Case's second reaction plays, his ad-lib plays, are going to have to happen. They're going to have to continue to be the norm for him in this game. And Pat Shermer is in the spotlight for sure. Because he, just like Doug is going to have to manage the game for Nick, Pat is going to have to be on it as far as where should we attack, what is the timeliness of when we attack, and who should we go after so they can make the big plays in order so they can come out on top.
And, in fairness, the expectations for Case Keenum in this game at this point in the season are light years different from where they were when he took over, and we kept saying,
which is big.
He'll show
that plays
show
a role.
us. Yeah, it does. It does play a role.